Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name's James. I'm the candidate coach. It is great to have you with me this morning, coming to you for our live workshop, our first workshop in our two-part interviewing skills series. For many of you, if you've got to the point with your job hunting that you've actually landed an interview, it is a moment where there's often some relief. Finally, I finally landed that job interview. I've been working so hard on my resume, on my cover letter. I've been spending hours going through the job boards. I've been shortlisting. I've been applying. I've been having phone interviews. And finally, you've landed an interview. But that moment of, I guess, satisfaction, relief, maybe euphoria is quickly replaced often by a sense of, oh, okay, I'm nervous again now because something's on the line. I've actually got to an interview stage. I really want to perform well at interview. So over today's and tomorrow's workshops, we're going to go into a bit of detail on what you need to do to perform well, to stand out well, and to answer questions well at interview. So today's workshop is called interview preparation and performance. So we're going to look at all the things you need to do before the interview, if that makes sense, to make sure that you're really well prepared. Because if you're not putting in the preparation in advance, then when you get there, how can you expect to perform well in the room? And then we're going to follow up with tomorrow's workshop, which is specifically on how to give great answers to interview questions. So tomorrow, that is all we're going to focus on is how to give great answers to interview questions. But today's workshop is around preparation and performance, because if you don't prepare well, then you aren't going to perform well at all. Just before we kick things off, a couple of housekeeping things for our workshop. If I do drop off the line for any reasons, and fingers crossed I don't, please stay on the line. I'm coming to you live via our YouTube channel today. You might be watching us on YouTube, our Facebook, or our LinkedIn page, or one of our many partners sites. And a very good morning if you are watching us, one of our partner sites which have provided access to you for this workshop. Okay. Even though I'm broadcasting to you via YouTube, on our partner sites in particular, we have comments box where you can ask me questions. So as I said, this is live, Live. It is Tuesday, the 16th of November, 2021, 11:03 a.m. here in Victoria. Ask me questions. I'll read them out live on air and I'll answer them for you. Take notes as we're going along, but also a replay of today's workshop will be available for you to watch on our YouTube channel. A little bit about me, James, your presenter. So who am I? Well, I'm a director at Smart Recruitment, and I've been working in recruitment since 2005. Actually, as I look over here in my calendar, on November the 20th, which is Saturday, I actually hit my 16th year. My 16th year in recruitment. I absolutely love working in recruitment. Over that time, I've estimated that I've conducted around 3,000 interviews and 600 group assessments. So particularly for today's and tomorrow's workshops, I've sat across the table and conducted over 3,000 interviews. I've run over 600 group assessments. And I'm able to give you some feedback and some insight, having seen candidates that have performed amazingly well at interview, and then candidates who look great on paper but have just really not done a great job at interview and cost themselves a job. I've also placed over 1,000 people into work. And when I recruit, we often do sales, marketing, contact center type jobs. And so interview performance actually plays a significant role. It does in all different types of work. But with the types of jobs that we recruit at Smart Recruitment, interviewing skills are key, because we're looking for soft skills which come through an interview for many of our roles. And I launched the Candidate Coach in December 2019. All right, let's get stuck in. So today, it's a pretty full-on session today. I'm not going to lie. If you're just sitting there dozing a little bit, you're going to need to wake up, because today we are going to go through a lot of content over the next 40 minutes. A lot of content. Today, I'm hoping that by the time you've left here, you have learned the following. First of all, pre-interview. And this is a big mistake a lot of people make. What do you actually need to do to get the basics right before the interview? Why preparation is key. We're then going to look at part 2 today, which is actually during the interview. So you're in the room now. What do you actually need to do? How do you impress in the interview room? what are recruiters really looking for, and what are the little things that can make all of the difference. Thirdly, post-interview. So your interview performance actually goes with you out of the room. So you've left the room, but now what? How do you keep on impressing after the interview? And then tomorrow, as I mentioned, we're running a session, how to give great answers to interview questions. It's a great session tomorrow. Now, as we're going along today, if I look like I'm looking over to my right a little bit, if you see me looking over here a lot, that's because it's got my presentation screen with my notes. So if I'm not looking down the barrel of the camera and I'm looking over here, that's why I'm not checking my emails or anything along those lines. You've got my full attention. All right, let's get stuck in. So part one, pre-interview. How to stand out at interview. There is one rule, okay? There's only one rule. It is this simple. Preparation is the key. Preparation is the key for you standing out at interview. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, James, you sound like a boring old man. Preparation is the key. I mean, what's that? Everybody says preparation is the key. Well, I'm here to tell you I might be boring. I'm not quite that old. I wish my beard was that long, although I'd maybe get it groomed a little bit. But preparation absolutely is the key. You cannot expect to perform well and do a good job at your interview without performing. Maybe you could fluke it occasionally. Maybe you're a naturally gifted presenter and you can charm the pants off anyone. But unless you can do that, and it's a huge risk because the person that you're meeting might like your charming approaches, preparation is the key. But a lot of people fear preparation. They fear preparation. They think, I don't want to do the preparation. It sounds like a lot of hard work. I don't know where to start. But I want you to change your mindset today. I want you to change your mindset with regards to preparation because I want you to embrace it. I want you to think preparation actually is your friend. Preparation is your friend. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, preparation you can do. Preparation you can do. What I'm going to show you today is going to increase your chances of performing well at interview and increase your chances of getting the job, and everybody can do it, regardless of your level of experience, regardless of your resume, regardless of your educational background. What I'm going to show you today you can do, it will increase your chances of doing the job. So I want you to embrace it because you can do it and it will help you land the job. All right, situation. You've just landed an interview. Imagine that you're on the telephone. The person said, hey, thanks for speaking to me today. I would now like to invite you in for an interview. How are you feeling? From this list of emojis on the screen there, how are you feeling? Feel free to type your answer into the comments box for me. I'll give you a moment to do so. But how do you actually feel when you land a job interview? Are you over the moon? Most people probably start on the top left-hand corner. I'm happy. A lot of people, there's a fair bit of bottom left-hand corner quite quickly as well. So there's often that mix of excitement and then overwhelming feeling of nerves. So it's important to remember that. The biggest mistake a lot of people make, though, is they hang up the phone. Straight away, they hang up the phone. They say, oh, yes, thanks very much. I'll come in for an interview tomorrow at 2:00. Fantastic. I'll see you there. Oh, yes, I've landed an interview. Oh, what do I do? How do I prepare best? So when the person has invited you in for an interview, this is not a chance for you to hurry off the phone as quick as possible. You need to follow up and ask some key questions. And if you can ask some of these key questions, then you're going to increase your chances of getting the job. So before hanging up the phone, the first question we want to ask is, who am I meeting with? You actually need to know. From a recruiter's point of view, when somebody arrives for an interview and they go to reception and they actually don't know who they're meeting with, it's a really poor reflection. So find out who are you meeting with and understand what they do in the company. Because if you're meeting with the CEO or you're meeting with the recruiter, there's quite a difference there in perhaps what you can expect. Look them up on LinkedIn, get a bit of an understanding about what they do. So that's the first question. I need to understand, who am I meeting with? And if you really want to stand out at interview, here's your first tip. Use that information in the interview. Let the person know, hey, I checked out your LinkedIn profile. I can see you've been working here for 5 years. Why do you enjoy working here? So use this information at interview to impress. Number two, what should I expect? This is a great question. This is a really great question because it's an open ended question. And if you ask this, you're going to get some great insight. Now, it's not uncommon, for example, for somebody who's a senior manager in a large organization to perhaps run 20-minute interviews. At the same time, another senior manager might run 90-minute interviews. Now, if you know that you should expect to be there for 20 or 90 minutes, then at least you're prepared. And if the interview only does go for 20 minutes, you might leave there feeling, oh, I only went for 20 minutes. I don't think they liked me. Whereas that might be how long every interview goes for. Or the recruiter might say, oh, well, look, you're going to be meeting with the finance manager, and this is a first round interview. And often in a first round interview, our finance manager probably won't ask you much about your work history or your qualifications. They're more interested in learning about you as a person. So be prepared to talk a bit about your values and your beliefs and what's important to you. That's really important for you to know. You can get some great insight here. Also, is it a group or individual interview? Learn about what's going to happen. Question 3, what type of questions will be asked? Again, coming back to the example with the finance manager, are we going to be getting very technical questions? Are they going to be behavioral based questions? Are the questions more going to be focused on me as a person? If we know what type of questions are going to be asked, guess what? We can go and practice them. And tomorrow, as I mentioned, we're running a workshop, how to give great answers to interview questions. What should I wear? Really important question. And this has really changed in my 15 years in recruitment. Previously, for a white collar job, for gentlemen, it was a suit and tie every time. For ladies, it was the equivalent. But now it's changing. You want to dress appropriately for that interview. And the only way you're going to know is if you ask. What's appropriate for this organization? What's parking like? Or what's transport like? So how are you going to get there? You need to arrive calm and be organized and have plenty of time. How long will the interview take? As I said earlier, it could be a 20-minute one-on-one, or it could be a 2.5-hour group assessment. You need to know, you need to prepare for what to expect, and you've got other things in your life as well. So you need to know how long the interview will take. What do I need to bring with me? This is very important. So you want to turn up with the right information. If you're going to a recruitment agency, you may need to bring payroll and banking information as well as ID. Maybe you need to bring along a copy of your academic transcript. It's really important to ask in case the recruiter forgets to tell you, because if you turn up and you don't have the right information, it often reflects poorly on you, even if you've not been told. And the most important question of all, this is a super important question. I'm going to pause for effect and have a sip of my coffee. The most important question of all, though, and if you can ask this question, this is going to give you a wonderful opportunity to get a great insight into how you can perform well at interview, but it is also going to give you a great opportunity to get a leg up on the other candidates, to know some information that they don't know. So the most important question of all is, what can I do to really impress at interview? Yes, you can ask this question. What can I do to really impress? Now, I don't know what the answer is going to be when you ask this question. I don't know what the recruiter is going to tell you. They might say, oh, look, just be yourself. They might not give much away. Or they might say, actually, you're meeting with Maria. Now, Maria is the IT manager. What Maria really likes to see at interview is ... Now, when you know that, what a fantastic insight you've got into how to impress Maria. So whatever you get given as the answer here, go away and put some time and effort into it. I guarantee you that you'll be the only candidate that asks this question, but it will increase your chances of performing well at interview. And that in turn will increase your chances of landing the job. So these are the questions we need to ask before hanging up the phone. I'll leave that up on the screen there for a moment so that you can take a screenshot of it. And I'll just jump in and see if we've had any questions come through. No questions yet. So feel free to type in any questions as we're going along. But obviously, if we can ask, and it might be hard, you might be on the telephone with the recruiter and you can't ask all these 8 questions, but some of them might have already been mentioned. If we can get 3 or 4 of them out, including the last one, then we're giving ourselves a wonderful opportunity to really have a good insight into how we can perform well at interview. Alrighty, let's move on. As I mentioned, you can watch a replay of today. Okay, so let's pretend. Let's pretend it's the day before the interview. We've got an interview tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, Wednesday morning. All right. It is tomorrow. Tomorrow, we've worked hard for this. We've been spending months reading job ads online. We've sent off our resume and cover letter. We've had 10 lots of phone interviews, but this is actually our first face-to-face interview. And I'm focusing on face-to-face, in-person, physically at the moment. We'll talk about video interviews in a moment. But let's talk about what we actually need to do the day before the interview. Because one of the most important things is trying, if possible, to go to bed the night before the interview feeling not too bad. So the day before, we need to check and confirm our travel arrangements. How are we going to get there? What's parking like? We want to make sure that our clothes and our shoes are clean, polished, ironed. Our documents are printed. The reason we do these things is if you wake up in the morning of the interview and you suddenly realize, oh, my pants that I was going to wear, I've got a hole in them. What am I going to do? I haven't got any other pants. Or I needed to print out my copy of my driver's license or my academic transcript and the printer's out of ink. So let's get all these things done the day before so we avoid the situation on the morning of the interview where we're panicking and things aren't organized. Or also, it'll allow you to go to bed and think, okay, I'm pretty organized. I've got everything sorted. Whereas if you go to bed and you lie there and think, okay, I've got to find my shirt. Where is that shirt? And I've got to get my pants on. I've got to polish my shoes and I've got to print. You'll lie there and struggle to go to sleep. So let's do these things the day before the interview. All right. Beep, 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 beep. The alarm's gone off. It's the morning of the interview. We wake up. Now, it is really important that you have breakfast. Really important that you have breakfast on the day of the interview. You probably will not feel like it. Your stomach will be lurching a little bit. You'll feel quite nervous. But it is really important to have breakfast the day of the interview because it helps with your blood sugar levels and your concentration. It also helps remove having bad breath. Now, when I do my interviewing, I like to interview candidates in the morning. That's my preference. And we often interview in small rooms just across a small table. If somebody has skipped breakfast and they're talking to me from a meter away for 45 minutes, I normally can tell because they've got bad breath. And for me, that's a really unpleasant experience. And that does not reflect well on you as a candidate. So have breakfast. All the things that you probably should know. You shower, you want to be fresh and clean. You want to avoid strong odors. You want to give yourself plenty of time. And you want to arrive at the location 30, 40, maybe even 60 minutes beforehand, just in case something happens on the way to delay you. But you don't want to go to reception straight away. If you turn up to reception 45 minutes before your interview, you might be thinking, hey, this is a really good way for me to show that I'm keen. Realistically, though, it's probably showing poor judgment. So let's get to reception and announce that we're here 5 to 10 minutes before. All right, what are we going to take with us? So I mentioned before a printer. What do we actually need to physically take to an interview? A lot of things, actually. I would encourage you to go out and buy a compendium. So I've included a photo of a compendium there. You can go and get one from Officeworks. You can probably go and get one from a news agency. You can buy one online. They cost about $29.95. Probably get them from Kmart. But if you take a compendium with you to interview, you look really professional and you look organized. You look like you mean business. This is important to you. It's also got a really practical application, though, because in your compendium, you can take everything else that is listed on the screen there. So a copy of your resume and your cover letter. If somebody comes halfway through the interview and sits down to join it and they don't have your resume, you can pass it over. Or you might want to refer to something on your resume. Your elevator pitch. 5 or 6 questions written down in advance that you want to ask. You can take notes and you can have them written down and you look really organized when at the end of the interview, the recruiter says, have you got any questions for me? You can refer to your notes. Photo ID, payroll, and anything else that's been asked to bring along. Take it in a compendium. You look organized. You will be organized, professional, and it looks impressive. It looks impressive. All right. So, how do we stand out in interviews? So far, it's preparation is key. Preparation is your friend. Preparation is you can do. My question for you is, can you do the preparation? So please type your answer into the comments box here. Everything that I've asked you to do so far today, do you think you can do it? Am I being reasonable in what I'm asking you to do, or am I being unreasonable? I think I'm being pretty reasonable in terms of what I'm asking you to do so far. And if you can do all of these things, then your chances of getting the job are increasing with every single thing that you do. All right, part 2. So we've got all the way up. We've got all the way up with our preparation, the day before, the morning of, everything in advance. Let's talk about during the interview. We're actually in the room now. We're sitting down in the room. This quote is very important, and I use this in a lot of my workshops, from Maya Angelou, who some of you may know. Maya said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So this is a really important quote because I think it really does apply to job interviews. When all is said and done, and you've had your interview, and 5 other candidates have been interviewed, we often forget what words you said, but we don't forget how you make us feel. So, how can we actually use this to our advantage? How can we make the recruiter feel good, comfortable with us? We want someone comfortable with us. So, let me show you how you can do it. So, I want to share with you 11 tips for making people feel more comfortable around you. Tip number 1, get your smile on. You might not feel like smiling because you feel really nervous, but when you smile at somebody, they will often smile back at you. And if they don't, they're pretty grumpy. Maybe you don't want to work for them. But we love it when somebody smiles at us. So get your smile on. When somebody comes out to meet you at reception for the interview, smile at them. Say, "Thank you for meeting with me today." Look them in the eye. Smiling is a great way to build rapport, and everybody likes being smiled at. Give off a confident vibe. Now, you might be feeling nervous, but remind yourself, okay, I've got to interview stage now. I must be doing something right. Most candidates who come across as confident at interview, not cocky, but confident, they give the recruiter the feeling or the sense that they will be a good performer. They really, really do. Dish out the compliments. So say something nice actually to the person that you're meeting with. Maybe say, "Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me today. I really appreciate it." Or maybe say, "That's a lovely blazer that you're wearing. Where did you get that from?" But we love it when we receive a compliment, and there's no reason why you as a candidate can't give one out. Slow things down. So a lot of job seekers make the mistake that they get into the interview room and they're so hyped up, they're so wired up for this interview that they speak really fast and it's all a big rush and they worry they're not going to get everything said and it's a panic. But slow things down. Take your time with your answers. Be thoughtful with your responses. I have never had a candidate miss out on a job because they took too long to give an answer. But I've had a lot of candidates whose the feedback on was they performed poorly at interview because they spoke too quickly or they seemed rushed. Have open body language. So a bit like I'm sitting with you now, be looking straight forward. If you talk with your hands, great. Don't cross your arms. So this is closed body language of crossing my arms, or if I'm sitting on the side, this is quite closed. Have an open frame. So if you want to put your hands together like that on the table, that's fine. But have it open shoulders, open face, look the person in the eye. Show that you're actually listening. So we can do this by doing 2 or 3 things. First of all, again, looking the person in the eye. A lot of candidates feel nervous and don't look the recruiter in the eye. And when somebody doesn't look you in the eye, look what I'm doing now. If I'm talking to you and I'm not looking you in the eye, it looks like I'm a bit disinterested. I'm a bit bored. I'm a bit nervous, but you will start to struggle to trust me. You won't feel like you can trust me as well. Whereas when I'm looking down the barrel of the camera, or if I was looking at you in the eye, you would feel like I'm really listening, that I'm really paying attention, and that you're more likely to trust me. Use the mirroring technique. So if you notice that the person you're speaking to uses particular language or things along those lines, mirror. Make the interviewer feel at home. There is every chance that the person who is interviewing you hasn't interviewed anybody for a year. You might be really nervous. They might be more nervous than you. If they're an experienced recruiter, yes, they're used to this. But if they're a line manager, maybe they do hire regularly, but regularly might be once every 6 months, and they normally only interview 2 or 3 people. They're not very good at it, and they're really nervous. So make the other person feel at home by doing all these other things. There's nothing wrong with having a laugh. Be your hilarious self. Be really honest. So let your guard down. A lot of candidates feel that they have to be very sanitized at interview. Whereas if you can let the honesty fly, be your hilarious self, you're going to build rapport and show that you're a genuine person. And remember to be nice. At the end of every interview or every phone conversation or any interaction, say thank you. Thank you for speaking with me today. Thank you for meeting with me today. I look forward to hearing back from you soon. It's really important to remember that the person that you are meeting with might be thinking that they're going to be sitting next to you if you get this job, sitting right here next to me for 40 hours a week, for 48 weeks of the year, for the next 5 years. So are you making yourself that person? Are you making the person think, yes, I'd be happy to work with you? Or are they thinking, oh, they're a little bit hard to get along with. They didn't really build much rapport. They seem like they've got the skills. But this other candidate I saw yesterday, they were a lot friendlier. And I know it perhaps doesn't sound politically correct to choose somebody who is friendlier to get the job, but we have unconscious bias. And even if we don't realize it at the time, we will want to work with people who normally we feel more comfortable around. So as Maya Angelou says, we remember how people made us feel. All right, so how else can we stand out in the interview room? What else do we need to do to stand out in the interview room? Well, we can stand out by impressing with our knowledge of the organization. As I mentioned earlier, you get to ask questions at the end of the interview. So let's show what we know. We've looked into what they do and stand for. We understand their values and their beliefs. We've got really good market knowledge. We know what's happening in the market. We've read recent media publications, perhaps. And we can impress with our knowledge of the actual position by showing that we know what a good job looks like. We link our experience and our education back to the position, and we understand the importance and the impact the position has in the organization. We also can impress with what we're going to bring to the team as an individual. What are our characteristics? What are our traits? What is our personality? You are a potential colleague of those you're meeting with. Make them want to work with you. So what's with all the research? I said you need to do a lot of research. I want to read out a quote to you, and some of you might have heard this before because I use this quote in a lot of my workshops. This quote comes from a LinkedIn post from Stefan Wheelak, who works in recruitment for a software company called Explore, based out of Melbourne, Australia. And he posted this on LinkedIn. Credentials on your resume will get you that first interview, but it's not the key to your next position. Looking at the people we recently hired or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with our understanding of our business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet, not all were exactly what we are looking for. On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper, but when I spoke with her, she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only researched a company once she lands an on-site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though if you are spending any time researching a company, you are missing the mark. Now, here's the key paragraph. I understand doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it'll pay off. However, that's exactly what other applicants do to get the job, and they're the ones that you compete with right from the beginning of your application. So as I said, if you don't want to do the research, don't do it. But you are competing with candidates who do a lot of research. And a candidate who answers questions confidently gives the interviewer a great sense that they are a top performer. All right, video interviews. What do we need to know about video interviews?
Hi job seekers, James here from the Candidate Coach. One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately is around how to best prepare for a video interview. Due to the circumstances over the last 12 to 18 months, video interviews have become the most common way of meeting a candidate, replacing the in-person, face-to-face interview. So here are my top tips for what you need to do to make sure you are best prepared and presenting yourself as well as you possibly can when your interview is over video. So there's four main things that you really need to consider. The first thing is camera height. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, is getting the height of their camera wrong. If you've got a laptop, for example, that is sitting on a desk, you need to lift it up. The camera should always be at eye height. You want to imagine the lens of a camera is the eyeball of a person. So if you are looking down at your laptop or your phone, it's going to look back up your nose. So keep the camera positioned at eye height. One of the great ways to do that is to buy a tripod, something like this. So if you don't have a tripod, it's well worth going out and spending the money. Here's another one that I've got here. This one in particular I find to be really, really good. These have both got lights which help, but this one here, you can adjust it to a full standing height if you like. And it's available for not much money from a retail store. The second thing that is really important is the lighting. So having the light shining on your face. You don't want to have light shining from behind you because that creates a lot of glare. So have the light shining on your face, sit with a window facing you so that you are looking nice and clear on camera. The third thing is audio. You need to be in a nice quiet space so your voice comes across clearly, so that you don't have to yell, so that the sound is not distorted. If you are using a laptop, make sure you check about the sound direction. Some microphones only record from directly in front, and if you tilt your head sideways, the audio quality can go down quite significantly. And the fourth thing is, remember to show some personality with video interviewing. A lot of people speak to a camera in a different way that they speak to a person. So again, look at the lens of the camera and imagine you're speaking to a person. Smile. Talk with your hands if that's what you do, but don't look around the room. If you're nervous, don't look down at your hands. Look at the camera and give an answer as if you were giving it to a person. This can be challenging, particularly if you are being asked to record answers and there's not actually a person that you are speaking to, but personality definitely comes through on video, so make sure you show yours. And with everything, practice. If you're not sure how you're going to present, or you think, I don't think this is going to work really well, set up your camera, hit record, and just speak to the camera. Talk, see how you look, and practice several times. This is going to be the new norm, or not the new norm, it is the norm for quite some time now, so it's really important that you understand how to best prepare for video interviewing. Good luck.
Whether or not your interview's been in person, in the flesh, or on Zoom, don't forget that when you finish the interview, you haven't finished with your opportunity to actually stand out and impress. So post-interview is the third step, and the third step is quite small. But from a recruiter's point of view, what can often be happening behind the scenes is that we've interviewed 8 candidates, and 3 of them are really good. We absolutely love 3 of them. In fact, 3 of them are so good, we are struggling to pick one of them. And that's where some of these small things can really make a difference. So, post-interview, what do we need to do? Send a thank you email within 24 hours. I'm really big on this one. My colleagues, myself, absolutely love just getting an email the following day or the following afternoon saying, hey, James, thanks for meeting with me this morning. I really appreciated having the opportunity to be interviewed for the role. I look forward to hearing back from you. Have a wonderful day. Kind regards, your name. If you send that email, here's what happens. You increase your chances of getting the job. It is that simple. If you've been asked to do something, do it immediately. So often at the end of the interview, the recruiter might say, hey, can you send me through that academic transcript? Can you send me a copy of those results? Can you send me that portfolio you talked about? Can you go and complete this test? Can you get back to me with your references? If you are asked to do something, go and do it straight away. Imagine it's a test. They're seeing how quickly you respond. The quicker you go and do something that you've been asked to do, the more you impress the recruiter. If you take a couple of days to send back your reference details, it's not reflecting well on you. Now, maybe you need to speak to your references first. So what you should do in the meantime is contact the recruiter via email and say, hey, I enjoyed meeting you. I'm just following up my references now. It might take a day or two. That's fine. But let's show we are responsive. Because if you're not responsive when you're going for the job, the recruiter's thinking, well, if they're not responsive now, what can I expect from them when they have the job? If a timeline for communication hasn't been established, it is okay to get back in touch 3 or 4 days after the interview. A lot of job seekers wonder here, what can I actually do? But you can give them a call, a polite call, just following up. Is there any feedback on my interview? I'm really interested in this position. Always be responsive, polite, and professional. Never argue with the recruiter, even if you feel that their reasoning for something is not right, or you disagree with what they're saying, or you feel hard done by. We need to be polite and positive all the time. All right. How do we deal with nerves and anxiety at interview? This is a really challenging one for a lot of people. It's the type of thing that many of us over time don't realize the impact that nerves and anxiety have. So we need to do a couple of things. We need to do a couple of things when we're preparing for our interview. Probably the most important thing is to understand that nerves and anxiety are going to occur. So we tell ourselves that we are going to get nervous before the interview. We also need to understand that nerves are a normal part of going for an interview. They're a common human emotion, but being nervous actually allows you and helps you to form at a better intellectual level. It makes you sharper. It makes you more alert. So I know it sounds a bit funny, but I actually want you to think that having a feeling of nervousness is actually a good thing, because it's your body's physiological way of preparing you for something that is important. Key, though, is to do the preparation. If you are doing the preparation that I've talked you through today, if you're going through it in the way that I've said and you are feeling real prepared, you will feel a lot more confident, you'll feel a lot more calm, and your ability to deal with nerves and anxiety is going to be far greater than if you're not prepared. So, what have we talked about today? How do we stand out at interview? Preparation is key. Preparation is your friend. Preparation you can do. Now, if you are still wanting more assistance, a little bit of a word on our candidate coaching resources. So you've got 2 episodes that are available for you to watch. Episode 8 is getting the basics right, and episode 9 is taking your interview from good to great. In these videos, you will hear from 6 different recruiters, including myself. 6 recruiters from 6 different companies will tell you their thoughts on what you need to do to perform well at interview. Go and watch these videos where you're watching this today. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, tomorrow we are going our second part in our interview series. My screen keeps going one too many. Giving great answers to interview questions. Couldn't fit the whole heading in there. It's a bit too long. Giving great answers to interview questions. Be back here at 11 a.m. So same time as this morning if you're in an eastern state. And I'm going to show you how to give really good answers to interview questions. You can then join us again next week on how to land a graduate job in Australia. And on the 30th, we're running our masterclass. And then for the first week of December, we start again with resume and cover letter workshops. We continue to run these for you. But just a reminder of all the tools that are available to you on your candidate coaching platform. We've got 14 video coaching episodes, resume and cover letter templates, interview questions, practice tests, checklists, articles, advice for executive job seekers, mental health support. Plus, we advertise all of our upcoming live workshops, and this is all available to you for free at your candidate coaching platform. Now, before I show you our final thing for today, I would really love to get your feedback via our 2-minute survey. I am going to drop this into the comments box so that you can click on the link. It is literally a 2-minute survey, and that really helps me to find out what value you got out of today. But we also ask, what topics would you like to know more about for our next workshops? As I mentioned, we've got resume and cover letter workshops. We run a LinkedIn workshop. We're going to be introducing some personal branding workshops, video interviews. What would you like to know more about as a job seeker out there in the market at the moment? And also, please do follow us on our LinkedIn page. Please do follow us on our LinkedIn page if you're not already, because we have lots of information there, and we would love for you to keep in touch via that way. But always, we finish every one of our workshops with a video around looking after your mental health when you're looking for work, because for us, this is really important. When you're looking for work, you may start to feel ordinary. It is not uncommon, but we're really starting to recognize now some strategies on how you can help to improve your mental health. You'll find some resources available via our candidate coaching platform. And I'd love you to watch this video and hear from a workplace expert. So today's workshop will conclude at the end of this video. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope to see you back here at the same time tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. I work with a lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and well-being might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself, because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space, and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.